It is 90.3 KEXP, and we stream all over the world at kexp.org. My name is Troy Nelson. I am very happy to have this group here in the KEXP live room today, and I am talking about Eagle Rock Gospel Singers, and if you guys are ready, take it away. We'd love to hear a couple songs.
The Eagle Rock Gospel Singers got their start in 2010 when a small group of musicians and singers got together and bonded over their love not only for gospel music, blues, country, and folk, but also their love for singing that actual gospel of Jesus Christ. As soon as they were able to get their songs out into the world, the singers hit the road like there was no tomorrow. The Eagle Rock Gospel Singers have played everywhere from local bars to many prestigious mainline music festivals and have shared bills with artists like Phoebe Bridgers, Will Watson, and Sean Watkins, just to name a few. The band has released 4 albums and have had their songs featured in many shows from some of the biggest names in TV and streaming. And over 15 years later, they're ready to release another album. And on top of that, believe it or not, the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers are still singing about the gospel. What has kept these guys' passion for singing about God so alive, even after having so much mainstream success? Well, I sat down with Will Wadsworth, one of the founding members and singers in the band, to talk about just that and more. So please, join me in my incredibly insightful conversation with Will of the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers.
My fear is driven now.
But yeah, you were just telling me about how you were moving, and then you were talking about like how you came from Buffalo, New York, and you said so you moved to California for the music stuff.
Yeah, I finished at the University of Buffalo, and I just got an English degree because I liked reading and writing, and I apparently didn't care about how lucrative of a degree that was going to be, or And then I moved out to LA because I wanted to do more networking for music as a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
yeah, so that was like strictly what I was doing, was playing drums at the time, pretty much. Still songwriting here and there, but mostly playing drums. And yeah, and then started the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers at a church in Hollywood, actually, out of friends that I knew from the choir there.
Yeah, I was looking at your bio because while I was familiar with your music, I wasn't really familiar with the story, and that it seems that that's basically kind of how it started out as a choir, and then it kind of just trimmed down to a band. So how did that happen? Was that like a church choir at your church, or how exactly did that happen?
So basically, there was a church choir that was, just in existence at the church that I was attending. And I joined the choir to just sing and do that thing and have fun with that with friends that were doing that. And I realized that there were a bunch of people in the choir that had kind of similar tastes in music compared to my own. And then I started thinking, I really love old time gospel music, whether it's, old African American gospel or old country and folk gospel, that kind of thing. And I realized that there were a bunch of people in this choir that also really dug that sort of thing. And so I kind of presented the idea of getting together and just singing through kind of these old songbooks sort of thing. With respect to that kind of genre, those genres. And we did it. We would just get together as a big group of people. It was probably honestly close to 20 people at first, where we would just gather at our place in Eagle Rock, which is a little township in LA. It really is Los Angeles, northeast Los Angeles. And we just started calling ourselves the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers. Our guitarist just said, well, there's a name that is just literally what we are. There's nothing poetic about it.
Yeah.
And, and then from there, we started to, get together and perform, live shows wherever we could, just, of a lot of that kind of old time cover material. But then we started writing our own stuff right around that same time and recording it. And yeah, and that's kind of how that started.
Sure. Yeah, and listening to your music, your the basically how you guys do things is basically in the name, the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers, because there doesn't seem to be like a, you know, like a main lead voice in the song. You guys all kind of trade off doing the vocals and such. But I'm curious, would you say that there's a singular voice behind the songwriting, or is that also like a collaborative effort with you guys?
I think more often than not, you're going to hear a collaborative effort, especially on our first two or three records. You're going to hear, but even now, you're going to hear a collaborative effort. You're going to hear different singers take lead, just because that makes for, in our opinion, a more interesting experience for a listener or for maybe a concert goer. You get to hear sort of a different band in some respects when someone else is leading a song. So yeah, I mean I love that, and yeah, and songwriting has been shared. It's been collaborative. It's been kind of like all of the above, and and now I'm writing a lot, but I'm still collaborating a whole lot with Jeremy Horton, the guitar player, and he's the one who actually like co-started the group with me when we first started. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, now we've got LaShawn Haley singing a lot of lead with us, and she's amazing. She was just actually nominated for a Grammy recently through her work with was one of the guys from the Carolina Chocolate Drops, the Rihanna Giddens group. Oh man, the guy's name escapes me. But anyway, she's
That's awesome though.
yeah, she's incredible. Like, couldn't ask for I don't think I've ever heard a better singer, honestly. I know that's a huge statement, but she's absolutely incredible. So I try to like figure out how I can write for her voice and have her
Mm,
lead on as much stuff as is right for that. And there's a lot of moments where she's just really taking that and running with it. But yeah, so I would say it is still very collaborative, and just an idea will become a song through the practice room and through the rehearsal room, and everybody just chipping in what they think would be a cool thing, you know.
sure. So who are the other like members of the group? Like, who are the other contributors, and has it always stayed the same since the inception, or has it kind of fluctuated a little bit?
It's been, in different seasons, it's been different folks, and basically, it's always been a collective, more or less. I would say
Yeah.
more than less. It's always been a collective because we've just kind of had pretty much a wide open door policy for a long time with like, hey, you want to come in and record with us or perform with us? Let's do it. And the only time that it started to crystallize into quote unquote like a band where there was like this unit of like static, folks for a time being was when
Mm,
tours started becoming a thing. And when we
mm,
there was a point where we got a record deal with a label called Bada Bing Records in New York back in 2015, and that was great. A guy named Ben Goldberg was running that, and he was like behind a lot of cool artists that we like Beirut, Sharon Van Etten, Tune Yards, these cool like indie rock things that were happening, and
yeah.
and we kind of felt like more akin to that than like contemporary Christian stuff, and so we were kind of gravitating towards more of a eclectic kind of record label type thing like that. And anyway, that's a long story short. We ended up getting on a really great booking agency, and we had a great agent, this guy Stephen Himmelfarb through Billions. And once that happened, it was like, okay, we have 15 people in this group. Who wants to get really serious about actually traveling now and actually like rehearsing on a weekly basis and writing, and all that stuff? And we narrowed it down to what ended up being 5 core members for that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those, I mean, then we did that tour, and then the next tour was different members, and then the next tour was, there were some people that were still with us, and some people weren't, and it just, again, it was like a collective from day one, and it still kind of is, though we have the current unit right now. It has been together for several years doing touring, and that's myself, Jeremy Horton, David Moss on keys, Chloe Babis Brown on bass, she's amazing, and LaShawn Haley on vocals and auxiliary percussion, she's amazing. And so that's what we're touring with now. And we've toured with this group for about 3, 4 years at this point. Um,
Okay.
yeah, LaShawn's been
That's awesome.
for about almost 10 years, and Jeremy's been with us since the beginning. So yeah.
So it started out as kind of like a fun thing that you guys just kind of got together and did. At what point did it kind of like transition into like, oh, this could be like something legit, like starting like recording music and touring and such?
I think honestly, one of the so we had, like I said, it was like a 15-person group at first, and one of the girls that was singing with us, one of the young ladies, was like, "Hey, let's record with somebody legit. Let's try to find someone legit to record with, and see if we can make a cool EP or a cool first album." And when that happened, she knew someone who knew someone who knew this guy, this producer, Matt Wignall, who had just finished, well, I guess a couple of years beforehand, had just done the Cold War Kids, a couple of their big songs like Hang Me Out to Dry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we were like,
Yeah.
oh, we love this stuff. Like, this guy's great. Like, and he
Yeah.
was also, he shared our faith. He was a Christian believer. And we were like, this guy's great. And so we meet this guy, and he gives us a price quote on making a record for us, and we're like, okay, this is that's kind of a lot, we need to figure this out. But what we did was we did a Kickstarter, and by the way, we're doing a Kickstarter right now for anyone who might hear this.
Right. Yeah. We'll definitely talk about that for
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, so we got in with Matt Wignall, and we just loved working with him so much. He's an absolute music lover. He's an absolute just a believer in God, and he's all about Jesus and what we're about. And so we just felt like our values were in line, but also our musical tastes were in line. He was bringing up all sorts of influences and stuff that were really in line with what we were digging into. And so we raised the funds, and we ended up recording with him and Antoine Arvisu, who's a great engineer and producer too. He's worked with Elliott Smith in the past, and just people that we loved. And we did this. We recorded at the Compound Studio in Signal Hill, Long Beach, as well as Matt Wignall's home studio, Taculand, in Long Beach. And that is when, to answer your first question, that's when we were like, maybe we could do something with this, because out of that, we had a church friend who was like, hey guys, can I pitch you guys to my friend who's a music licenser? And we were like, of course you can. And so that's how we met this really wonderful woman named Andrea Matos, who's got Castle Peak Music Licensing, which is her business. And she started to license our songs. And that's how we got some traction with, it was like Showtime and Suits and MTV and Netflix, like, started using
Hmm.
some of our music for their shows and for their, promotions. And that kind of was parlayed into us getting a record deal. We got management through people that knew her, and that became the record deal with Bada Bing Records. Eventually, that turned into that, and yeah, and so that's when we were like, okay, if we're gonna take this on the road, we can't do it with 15 people, and we need to, like,
Hmm.
see who. And by that point, like, a lot of people were like, oh, I can only commit this much time. And then we kind of got it narrowed down to, like, okay, who could actually do a weekly rehearsal? Who can actually commit to leaving town for a couple of weeks at a time, and actually who
Right.
wants to do it? And yeah, and that's how that kind of happened.
That's awesome. Like we are going to talk about the new album and everything, but this being my first time meeting you, I do really want to get to know the heart behind the gospel singers. And so I'm curious, especially with talking about you guys' start. um you've got you guys have all these interests and all these people that are like involved in like the indie music scene and like all these alternative artists and such. Why why gospel music? And I'm not even just talking just in terms of like the style, but also you guys have consistently, and I was like refreshing myself like through your discography this week, you guys have consistently always been about the gospel and the Christian life and the Christian faith. Like, why why that in the first place, and why have you guys stuck with that this whole time rather than going like, kind of like the more indie alternative route?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. When I'll try to I'll try to put this in a nutshell. When I first moved to Los Angeles, my thing was just I'm gonna play whatever I'm feeling in my heart. I'm gonna do, whatever's fun. I'm gonna network, and that was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. Um, and I think I got to the point where I just said, you know what, if I'm gonna be working this hard on this stuff, while also maintaining a 9 to 5, which I was. I mean, this is all burning the midnight oil to this day.
Mm.
Just it's all post work stuff. Um, but yeah, I think where I can hang my hat with this question is I kind of came to a point for a number of reasons where I was just like, if I'm going to pursue music, it has to be 100% something that I believe in as far as message goes, as far as style and vibe goes, as far as my heart goes, or I just can't do it. I just won't do it. Um, you know, and I remember I had a percussion professor at the University of Buffalo when I was working on a minor in percussion. And he said, if you can get away from music, get away from it. And what he meant by was like, it's so hard, and unless you love it, it's so hard to keep it in your life and to really work on it. That unless you
Mm.
love it, it's just going to be torturous, basically. Because if you really dig it and you really want to be a part of it, that's great. And you can't help but do it, that's great. But if you can help but do it, if you can
Sure.
get away. So I thought about that too, and I was like, what can I not get away from? What do I love so much that I feel like I just can't get away from it? And I landed on old gospel stuff because a lot of the old gospel, well, first of all, I wanted to feel like I was doing something where my heart and my faith were 100% inextricably linked and woven into the music. Um, and I think it's something actually that Bob Dylan once said when he was asked why there were so many Judeo-Christian spiritual references in his music in his early on in his career, and he's like they're inextricably linked to folk and blues and country music of the early 20th century. And these are just themes that are woven within the fabric of early quote unquote American music, early 20th century American music. Um, and so I would even make the argument that a lot of the music that I love that has nothing to do with gospel music has roots firmly in gospel music. And that's not anything
Mm.
revolutionary to say. Some of the earliest rock and roll, obviously, you got like Sister Rosetta, who's incredible. And she was the one who, in my opinion, ushered just gospel right into rock and roll, or ushered rock and roll right into the world
Yeah.
from gospel. And Reverend Gary Davis. There's so many people that did the Swan Silvertones. These people were just right on that line, and then you came Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers, and they were just right on that line of like, okay, it's R&B, it's soul music, it's church, but it's also starting to rock, it's also starting to like get kind of nasty and cathartic and gritty and then and almost punk rock in some when if you really dive deep into some early crazy records of gospel from the 1950s and 40s, even you start to get some really intense stuff. And so I knew that I loved that, and I knew that I would always love that. I still love it to this day. It's what I'm playing in my home on Sunday mornings. Like I'm playing that stuff. I'm always curating new playlists of that stuff. And so, why gospel? Why go for gospel? Why stick with gospel? I truly believe it's the best music in the world. It's the best music. I think objectively, it's not just like, hey, I like Jesus and it's about Jesus and that's why it's cool. Don't you love Jesus too? Like, no,
Yeah.
it's not like that. It's like I think objectively, it's cathartic it's wild. I mean, my favorite ones. It's heartbreaking. It's everything. It's everything from like the Louvin brothers, who inspired everyone. Like there might not have been a Johnny Cash if there wasn't a Louvin brothers. Uh, guys like that, to Mahalia Jackson. Who knows if there would have been, Aretha Franklin if there wasn't people like Mahalia Jackson, just doing amazing church music. And who knows if there would be a Mavis Staples and the Staples Singers, who are also a huge influence on us. But yeah, I truly think that it's the greatest thing in the world. I think this music's full of hope and catharsis, and yeah, I just want to do anything like it. Always.
Well, that's awesome. It definitely seems apparent that it's very genuine from you. And I think that you seem a lot more genuine about it than a lot of, like Christian radio artists that you hear a lot today, I think it's very apparent in the music. Do you ever get like any pressure from, because I know that you guys were on like KEXP and such, and you've gotten attention from like, the secular world and such. Do you guys get any pressure from anyone though, to like, obviously they love your stuff, but has anyone ever been like, oh, well, you could keep the style, but why do you got to keep the message,
Oh yeah. I mean, one of the big things that's come up over and over again, unfortunately, it is what it is with our licensing company, which we love, and it's the biggest honor and biggest thrill ever, and such a huge thing when you're able to license your music to a TV show or to a commercial for whatever. It's so awesome to be able to do that. But what we get constantly from that side of the fence is, can you kind of take the Jesus out of it? Can you kind of not, like, we're going to use this for the NFL draft. We did license a song for the NFL draft for ESPN a couple of years ago. And you could tell, like, they would have, like, they'd cut to a quick interview moment where it's like, oh, I'm so happy to be playing for the Baltimore Ravens, like right over the word, like Jesus or God. They were very like slick about it. But we have definitely received, word about, hey, can you tone it down? Like, maybe not so explicitly about Jesus, or maybe not so explicitly about God, because we won't be able to really sell it if you do that. And I can tell you that we don't care. Like, for the most part, we're just like, hey, if you really, I mean, I guess if I'm honest, there's maybe I can count on half a hand how many times I've really tried to be like, okay, let me write a gospel song that I think could be used for this next Netflix show. Like, honestly, like I don't think that has ever been a fruitful thing to even entertain for longer than a couple of minutes for me. So I've abandoned it. And, yes, there is pressure out there. We've had music festivals tell us like, hey, you guys we don't know what to do with you. We don't know where this would fit. Or music festivals, like we've played, Austin City Limits, and that was amazing. But, and they were, of course, like, hey, we have got a perfect spot for you Sunday morning. We'll have you. It's like, and then there's sometimes a festival too that'll give us the Friday night or the Saturday night, and then they realize, oh, this is, we're up there going crazy, and it's all about like dancing and jumping up and down and losing our minds and screaming and shouting, and it's. Yes, Sunday morning's great when we want to do that Sunday morning. We want to go to churches and perform. But the mission of this band is not to go and preach to the choir, pun not intended. But and though we do, that's great. We'll do that. We love doing that. But the real goal was kind of like what Pop Staples said about the Staples Singers. Is like, we're going into the clubs and the bars and the secular, quote unquote, secular festivals to try to bring something that isn't there. Instead of going into churches, and we do still play churches. We're going to play a couple on this next tour, and we love it. That's great.
Right.
But there's something, and I love doing that. But my heart is trying to go after people that already have a lot of preconceived notions about what the gospel is, about who Jesus is, and also about what gospel music is. And and a lot of the time when we get into those doors, people are like, "Whoa, what? That was not what I thought it was going to be." We were expecting Christian rock, or we were expecting, contemporary Christian worship music that should be at my mega church down the street or whatever. And we're not any of that. And so we're a weird sell. I'll admit we are a weird sell, because people are like, you're gospel singers? What does that really mean right now? Like, you're also a rock band. what does that mean? You're also doing an indie rock thing. Where do you guys fit? You know, like, yeah. So we get, I do think we get a lot of prejudice just because the name alone. People are like, oof, I don't like what are we doing with this? You know?
Sure, yeah, I'm sure it can be confusing for anyone on both sides to try to comprehend it, but I respect that a whole lot. The fact that you won't compromise, the content of your lyrics, but you're also going out to all these secular festivals or Christian or whatever, and just still willing to do that. And I feel like a lot of people think that you have to have one or the other, but you seem to kind of like take both of those things, and that's awesome.
Well, we
um
had, I mean, we had an agent that literally told us one day, look, I could totally book you guys into the big Christian festivals. If we do that, there's no turning back though. Like you won't be
mm,
able to go and play the secular festivals anymore. Like he basically said exactly that. And
mhm.
he said like the other way around is different. He's like, if I book you in the secular festivals, like, they've got us playing things like we played Voodoo Festival in New Orleans,
Mhm.
right next to a band that was literally a satanic band, and like, and then through that we end up getting like, Maynard James Keenan of Tool ends up, putting us on his list of songs that got him through the pandemic, and we end up going and
Oh, wow.
yeah, we ended up going and playing he and his wife's record store twice in the past like couple of years because they're into, and people are like, what the heck is that about? Isn't that band kind of satanic? And it's like I love that so much because I see the void. I see there's a gap where this gospel or Christian kind of art is relegated to this corner, and it lives there. It's not allowed out of this corner, and it's stay in the church. What are you doing? Don't go outside of the church. And we're trying to be like, no, no, no. This is just as cool as anything, as far as any genre goes, and it should be at the table with all these. Yeah, I think you're getting what I'm saying. I'm just
No, yeah, and that's definitely a conversation that is had on my channel a lot, and I have been thinking about it, a lot. It's just kind of weird how not just the world, but also Christians themselves try to just kind of keep like Christian art boxed in the corner, when really, like, we should just be a part of the general conversation of art. Like, it should be in there, and we should be in all those spaces, and if people got a problem with it, then whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I have a ton of respect for that. So let's talk about the upcoming album. Well, hopefully I can, I'll get this all edited, when I can. But as of the time of this recording, it is releasing on April 17th. You've already like released quite a lot of the album as singles and such,
yeah.
but and I've listened to all of it, and I'm pretty excited about this album. I don't know what it is. Like, I wouldn't say that you guys are like changing. You're not like, changing anything on any of the fans in terms, like, you still sound like the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers, but I don't know why, but there's something about this album that seems more fresh, um and not sure if I can really put a finger on it. But would you guys say, like, what were some different approaches that you took with this album as opposed to any your previous albums, if any different approaches at all,
Yeah, I think one of the most significant things was the production and the engineering was shared this time between a couple of different studios. One being what I would call our home studio of Tackyland with Matt Wignall, who we love and still intend on working with a ton, down in Long Beach. And then the other one is a studio called Inhesion Studios, which is in Georgia, Lilburn, Georgia, just above Atlanta. And we've been working out there with a producer named Jeremy Grelly, and our original piano player, who's knows him and lives out in Atlanta now. His name is Jonathan Lorenz, Jojo Lorenz. He had a heavy hand in some of the arrangements on this record and some of the vocal parts, the vocal arranging as well. Multi-instrumentalist. I mean, he plays piano, banjo, mandolin, guitar, bass. He's all over this.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of what would differentiate this record from, well, this is, okay. Another one of the biggest things is there's been a huge distillation of songs out of a collection of songs that were written for the record that started all the way back in probably like 2018, 2019. I started going with this idea that I was going to write a song every day. And I got that idea from reading. It was a Jeff Tweedy bio. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jeff Tweedy.
No.
Okay. So he's the lead guy in Wilco, big band out of Chicago.
Okay, I recognize that name.
Yeah. And his whole thing was he was reading Woody Guthrie. He was reading a bio on Woody Guthrie, or it might have been his own bio. But Woody Guthrie, who just famous old folk singer, said you should just try to write a song every day. And so I did that. And this record became, I did that with the exception of a few days here and there. I wasn't always perfect. But what it boiled down to is we ended up with almost 1,000 songs after a few years of writing. And I was pitching these songs to the band, to friends in the music realm around here. And we just narrowed it down to songs that we thought were the best. So that's one thing that may have resulted in a different vibe or a different feel. And we were just listening to everything, everything from Radiohead to Kendrick Lamar to back to old gospel music,
Right.
And trying to bring all of that together. The title track Revival off this new record, I think, was at least in part inspired by the White Album Beatles, Helter Skelter. Like that meets, like something like that meshed with, okay, now what would, Mavis Staples or Mahalia kind of sing? What kind of melody would go there instead of something that the Beatles would sing? Or what kind of lyrics, And a lot of the lyrics are drawn straight out of like Old Testament prophet stories, like that one is. Another song called Go Up, same thing. That was a Radiohead type thing, was inspired that. Something that Tom York was doing with his voice while he was just sitting on a certain chord and doing this really cool ascending thing. And I was like, man, that's awesome. It was like on the In Rainbows album, I think. But anyway,
that is one of my favorite tracks so far, by the way.
Really? Dude.
And I do like Radiohead, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I love Radiohead. And so and that's kind of like back to my whole thing of like, where I see a gap is like, I think that gospel music from the early 20th century should be meshed with these kinds of acts and artists that we have today too, and see what happens. And so that's what and we weren't doing that before. So if you want to see like another differentiation there, it's like we were doing a little bit of that, but we were mostly going, what if we just really amp up old school gospel music? And we love doing that, and we still do that. But now we're going, we really amp up old school gospel music, but also mesh it with like all of this other stuff that we love, like the Beatles, Radiohead, there's some phrasing that was inspired by Kendrick Lamar, and just like modern hip hop stuff too. So there's a little bit of everything, really. I think that might be another reason why it might be a little bit different and sound newer.
No, yeah, I love that. What would you and this isn't me saying this, but I'd be interested to know your answer. What would you say to someone who like heard your answer just there and would say like, why are you getting, inspiration from, secular artists like Radiohead and Kendrick Lamar? Like, what does that have to do with the gospel?
Well, I would say I don't like the word secular, nor do I really don't like the word Christian when it's applied to a particular thing, because I think it's used to sell. I think it's used to label in order to be able to create a marketable commodity out of something, more than it is to truly say that this is something that is in line with the teachings of Christ. You know what I mean? Like and I'm all about that. But when someone says secular versus Christian, I'm like, ooh, that to me, therein lies the problem already. Like,
Sure.
I believe that God created this world. God created all people. God created music. And when we start going, yuck, that's secular. It's like, well, I don't really know what you mean sometimes by that. I think, is that in opposition to the gospel? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that, that chord progression is in opposition to the teachings of Christ? Are you saying that, obviously there are lyrics that you can say, well, that's not really morally in line with what I believe Christ was all about, and I understand that 100%. And hopefully there's stuff like that on any of our records. Like, I'm always trying to be like, no, we're actually trying to say exactly what's going on with the gospel and uphold that and point to God with it. But yeah, I don't. The whole idea of there's this separation between church and state there. I I don't think there really is. I'm not sure if there ever was. I don't know. I think that it's all about what you're saying. You can say something that is really good and I think in line with what Christ is all about, or you can say something that kind of sucks and is kind of evil and something that I think is against the teachings of Christ. And I think that's really what it's boiling down to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I did read a book. I think it was Steve Turner, I think, wrote a book called A Vision for Christians in the Arts. And he said that the secular world now has a monopoly on the art of our earth, basically, on the art of human beings. And it used to be the exact opposite. Like Christians, quote unquote, believers in Christ. I'd rather use that word. I like
Yeah.
believers in God. They actually had the monopoly. It was the greatest artist, Michael Caravaggio. All these guys, these people, these amazing artists were totally, Christian artists that were creating quote unquote Christian art that was just of truth and beauty and of God and of the word of the prophets and of the word of Christ. And yeah, so I guess part of my thing is I want to kind of snatch back what I believe belongs to God too, like maybe a little bit. I don't know if that answers the question, but
No, yeah, absolutely. And um, like I said, it doesn't. That question doesn't really come from my personal perspective. I'm
right.
very much more in line with you. I use words like like terms like secular versus Christian, just because it's easier for people to understand. I now have come kind of to this philosophy that everything, whether it intends to or not, glorifies God in some way.
Mm.
Even the dark parts of life and world, they glorify God in a way. And so it then just comes down to a conversation as to how it does that. And like you said, that of course that there are some like lyrics and such that are obviously very much against God and such, but even then, like, you can still try to find something. It is an interesting conversation, and I mean, it is kind of a shame that we've gotten to this place where there is so much separation. But yeah, I'm like you, like one of my favorite artists right now, PD, or he goes by PD USA. Like, there's so much in his lyrics where he talks about God, and he, philosophy and such. And like, I know that he's not a believer, but it's like I can listen to it and be like, oh yeah, there's something there, you know. It's just a really interesting conversation, and I figured that would be your answer would be something along those lines, but I
Well,
just wanted to pick your brain on that.
yeah, I think that this is a dialogue. This is music, I think, that people are producing and releasing out into the world or performing on stages. It's a dialogue, it's a conversation that's happening between musicians, between listeners. And I think that there are all these different languages, quote unquote, that are being spoken within music, as it is also a universal language in and of itself. But I think
Mhm.
that if you plug your ears and you're just la la la, I can't hear that. No, 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 no. That's evil, evil, evil. You're not hearing what's happening, and you might not be able to speak into what's happening. Like Paul says, every man needs a different word. And I think it's like maybe every person needs a different song. It could be applied. You could say something like that. And again, it's a dialogue. It's about being able to speak to people and communicate to people and to listen to people. And if you decide that you're just not going to listen to an entire genre of music because you disagree with some of the lyrics, okay, you can do that. But don't expect to be able to create something always that's going to speak into that realm or that person, if or those people that are listening to that, if you have no idea what's being said there, if you're not, being slow to speak and quick to listen. I'm not saying celebrate and glorify things that are not of God. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that the pendulum can swing so far, and I think you were saying this, to where you're like, you start labeling secular, secular, secular. Don't listen, don't burn that, crush that, take those albums, throw them out. And it's like, you can do that if you want to do that. Go for it. But I think that you might miss the opportunity to be able to pick up on another language that's being spoken, so that you can actually converse with that person about God through the music that you're making, if this is what you're doing.
Sure.
And I think about, like, Mark Twain once said something that I think is really funny. He said, anybody who gets into heaven is going to be absolutely shocked by who is and who is not there. And I think about that, and I think that can be applied to so much more in than just who is and isn't going to be, quote unquote, ending up and admitted to heaven. I think it's kind of like a word about how so many believers, how so many people of faith really think they have the mind of God figured out, and they really think that, like, they're gonna they're gonna straighten everybody else out, and they're gonna label this and that, and and then you get into this weird legalistic realm, which is more or less what Jesus came to come and squash, in some senses. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying there should, he said he came to fulfill the law, right? So he's not abolishing the law, but he's also, but anyway, I think
that's like a whole other conversation right there. But no, yeah, I totally get you. And I don't want to keep you long, but I guess some final thoughts about the album. um the album is called Revival. What would you say is the heart behind this album? What does what is this album saying, that, like, what is Revival to you? What is the heart behind it?
Yeah. Well, I'll start off by saying, like, it kind of irked me to even name it Revival, because there's so many records and songs named Revival that, like, I was
Sure.
trying to actively avoid it until so many people were just like, no, that has to be the name of this record. But
Mm,
it is something that I stand behind firmly, because the idea of revival and of a revival is, to me, probably what a lot of people think of when they hear that word. It's an awakening. It is kind of a sparking of something good and renewing. It's kind of like a resurrection of the spirit and the soul. It's it's like being freshly baptized. Not that you need to be baptized multiple times, but it's like
right.
it's being able to be kind of reborn and become this new and better thing. And so when it comes to this record being called Revival, I think it's just about again being restored. I think it's about uh, the joy, restoring the joy, as Psalm 52, when David is saying, renew a right spirit within me, restore the joy of salvation within me. Those sorts of things
Hmm.
come to mind when we're really talking about this record. And a lot of this record, like I said, was inspired by the stories of Old Testament prophets. Even minor prophets, and songs that I'm like, why aren't we singing about these people and these stories? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even hear songs about this prophet. Some of the quote unquote minor prophets, or prophets that you don't hear a lot about. You don't hear that in church, or you don't hear that. You don't definitely don't hear that in bars often, unless it's very obscure.
Yeah.
But and I would love to know who's doing it if I want to listen. But yeah, so that's what Revival would
That's
mean.
awesome. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I don't know if this video is going to come out in time, but maybe I'll like make some posts about it if people want to support. Is this the kind of Kickstarter that people can still support even like after the album is out, or is it like once the album's out, the campaign is done?
Well, yeah, the campaign is actually like cut at 7:29 Pacific time this Tuesday, April 14th. So we
Okay.
yeah, right now we have raised just above 87% of our goal to support the funding of the pressing of the record as well as the accompanying tour, the revival tour, which we're going out on next month. And yeah, we've raised about $8,705 actually. Just checked.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been great, huge blessing, and it's all thanks to people that are just really chipping in and showing up. And the thing is, it is an all or nothing goal, though. We have to hit 10,000 by 7:29 a.m. Tuesday, April 14th, or we literally get nothing, which is kind of crazy to think about that.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah,
Mm.
they literally are just like, nope, it's all or nothing. So
Okay.
hitting it hard, yeah.
Well, I'll try to get the message out there as best as I can. But if people can't support the Kickstarter, how can they find the album? How else can they support you guys?
Okay, yeah. Well, the album's streaming everywhere. Like it will be streaming everywhere, and several of the
Mhm.
songs have already been released, as you know. There, this will be on every streaming platform you could name. Yeah, so there's that. And then if
Okay.
anybody is in any of the cities that we're going to be touring in, then I mean, coming out to see us would be huge. I can tell you what those cities are. Can I just tell you what the
Yeah,
dates are?
absolutely. Go ahead. Go
Okay,
for it.
I'll say this real quick. Saturday, May 16th, Midland First United Methodist Church, Midland, Michigan. Sunday, May 17th, Buffalo Ironworks, Buffalo, New York. That's a big music venue, bar, club. Monday, May 18th, the Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto, Canada, an amazing venue in Toronto. Wednesday, May 20th, at Groove, New York City. It's a sister venue of Cafe Wa, where Dylan got his start. A bunch of really famous, cool people. Anyway, cool place. Thursday, May 21st, Hope in Christchurch, Cincester, New Hampshire. Friday, May 22nd, Chez Ernest, which is in Montreal, Canada. Very cool city. And then Sunday, May 24th, the Sanctuary in Detroit, Michigan. So,
Gotcha. So no Chicago dates.
dude, we were literally this close to booking a place called Uncommon Ground in Chicago. We were going back and forth. They really wanted us. We really wanted to do it. It just came down to a budget issue, and we had to say we couldn't do it. We had to tell them we couldn't.
Oh
Yeah.
well.
But we love Chicago. I love one of the coolest places we've ever played. A couple places we played the Space in Evanston, which I know is not technically Chicago, but right on top of
Mm,
Chicago. And then also what is it? The Outpost, the Hideout, the Hideout. That was a
okay.
really great place that we played in Chicago. So we're gonna be trying to circle back and get to Chicago again soon.
Well, I'm not. I'm not even like in Chicago. I'm just in Illinois. I just know that like if a band is going to come to Illinois, it's usually Chicago. But like, hey, the closer to Central Illinois, the better for me. But yeah, I'd love to see you guys live at some time. I'm sure that you know, uh, that's part of the experience of experiencing you guys' music. I'm sure that would be great to see live. So, but yeah, everyone's got to go support them. I've been following you guys ever since someone sent me MMLJ at one point, and have followed you guys since. So,
Thanks.
you guys are doing really cool stuff. So, and good luck with the new album Revival for sure.
Well,
So.
thanks, Cliff. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, man. God bless you.
Revival, 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 revival.
Thanks so much for watching this episode, guys. Really appreciate the support. Now, for the umpteenth time, go check out the Eagle Rock Gospel Singers. Go check out their music. The new album Revival is out. You can go listen to it. You can go buy it. Go to the EagleRockGospelSingers.org and you can buy a record there or something, or you can just stream their music. The album is out and hot off the presses, so please go show them some love. And just thank you so much to Will for doing this. It's truly an honor to have a favorite artist on this channel. So I've got a few videos to catch up on, and I'm not going to read every comment, but just a couple from each, a couple notable ones. And this is from my last interview with John James of the Newsboys. So if you guys are new and you liked this interview, please go check out my interview with John James. And in response to this comment from 80s Pastor Dude, that is a perfect birthday present. I'm really excited too. I've got it on pre-order, and I'm really excited to check it out. But yeah, a vinyl of his album would be a great idea. I would love that. And to seek find, I appreciate you watching the interview. I'm glad we both have an appreciation for John James, and yeah, I'm glad that he's coming back into the conversation. And to get a little bit more on the serious side, you guys watched my CCM Needs to Cut Ties with Bethel music video. A very dark subject for sure, but I still appreciate you guys watching and showing the support. Ethan from Arts Immunicado, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I forget how you pronounced it. But yeah, Hillsong, Bethel, honestly, Elevation, all of them, you know, they're just not great, unfortunately, and unfortunately they get all the attention. With Bethel especially, there's a lot that's going on right now that makes it very uncomfortable to show them any kind of support. And Pike the Falcon shared something that, yeah, there's a little bit of an update with the whole Bethel situation, that it took down the Bethel alumni page, the Facebook page, which still don't really know why that happened. I just feel like that's a bad move. Now to the more fun side of my channel. Of course, recently celebrated 600 subscribers on YouTube, and I posted that video sketch that I've been wanting to make for a while. Just wanted to wait until I got to 600 subscribers. Chase Tremaine says, and the Oscar goes to... But you know what? I'm happy to pass along this award to someone more deserving than me. I want it to go to the little person. That's who's important. And Stuffy says that he is my 609th subscriber. Thank you very much, Stuffies. And right now we are at 619 subscribers by the time that I'm recording this. So again, thank you guys so much. I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys so much. I could kiss all of you with consent. I would hug all of you. I would kiss all of you on the cheek. I'll see you guys in the next video, and remember that I am Clifford today, and you're not.